Hello and welcome to this video on 6 critical signs your SEM suffers from global model misfit. My name is Geiser. I'm an instructor and statistical consultant with QuantFish. In this video, I'm going to discuss 6 typical symptoms of misfit in structural equation modeling and confirmatory factor analysis, so that you know when you encounter any of those, you might have to rethink or revise your model. Stay until the very end because I'm going to give you a few additional tips at the very end that are additionally useful in addition to knowing about these 6 signs. So let's get started with sign number 1. Sign number 1 is you have a model that does not even converge. So in a software for structural equation modeling or factor analysis, you might receive a message like this in the output: the model could not be estimated due to non-convergence. Here in this example, this is a message from the program JASP, JASP, which is a point and click program that you can use for confirmatory factor analysis and SEM. You would get similar messages in other structural equation modeling programs. Now, what does this mean? Non-convergence means that the program ran out of iterations in trying to estimate the parameters of your model and did not find a solution. This can be due to model non-identification, but can also be due to extreme model misfit. For example, when you have a model that is too heavily parameterized, or we could say over parameterized, where you have too many factors, for example, or too many loadings or cross loadings or parameters that are not really needed to fit your data, then the model may have trouble finding solutions for all those types of parameters, many of which may be non-substantial. Or also when you have an extremely underspecified model, this can happen. So when you're lacking critical parameters, then also perhaps no solution can be found. So this is a sign of model misspecification when you have non-convergence. And of course, if your model doesn't converge, you definitely have to rethink your model because you wouldn't even get any kind of solution in that case. What is the second symptom or sign? The second sign is that you have a high chi-square value, and specifically high is difficult to think of in absolute terms, but so relative to your degrees of freedom of your model, if your chi-square is very large. And so here you can see an example. So here you can see a chi-square test for a baseline model or null model, and that chi-square is very large relative to the degrees of freedom. It is over 1,000 relative to 6 degrees of freedom. So that is a very, very large chi-square to degrees of freedom ratio. Below that is the actual target model that was specified here, which was a growth curve model. And the growth curve model also has a very high chi-square to df ratio, 100 to 5. So 100 is the chi-square, 5 is the degrees of freedom. So that's still a very high ratio, and you can see the p-value is smaller than 0.001, meaning the model is rejected. And so typically when we have a chi-square to df ratio that is greater than 2 or greater than 3, then we start to think that the model may not be very good. So when you have 3 times, when your chi-square is 3 times the size of the degrees of freedom, for example, or larger, then this is a sign that there's some substantial model misspecification. And generally, the higher the chi-square relative to the degrees of freedom, the worse it is. When you have something horrible, like in this case, where the chi-square is over 100 and your degrees of freedom are only 5, then definitely this model is not good and you need to rethink your model. Next are poor model fit indices. So in addition to the chi-square, we can also look at other model fit indices, which is often done, especially when you have a large sample where the chi-square may be extremely powerful in detecting even minor model misspecifications. So then we typically also look at other fit indices. And so here are a few. Again, those were created in, or this table was generated in JASP for a confirmatory factor analysis model. And you can see here the CFI is 0.909, the TLI is 0.89. So those are comparative fit indices that look at our model relative to a baseline model, and they should be above 0.95 for a good model, and here they are not looking very good. Also, another index that we frequently look at is the RMSEA, and the RMSEA here actually looks really terrible with a value of 0.25. The value should be below 0.05. So this is much larger than the expected value for a good fit, so definitely not a proper model. And then here you can see also the standardized root mean square residual, which is a summary measure of the covariance and mean residuals. Also here is too high at 0.076. It should be below 0.05. So this is also indicating that this model isn't a good fit. So in summary, these indices collectively also would tell you this is a globally misspecified model. Okay, sign number 4, improper solution. So you may find that a model converges. A model shows an okay chi-square, maybe even a good chi-square that is non-significant. Perhaps the model shows good fit indices, and yet the model results in one or more parameter estimates that are out of bounds, meaning out of the range of admissible values. And here's an example where a growth curve model was fit, and so you can see here that there is a negative error variance for the third time point, y3. You can see here this residual variance estimate is negative at negative 0.082. There's also a little table note here that says residual variance is negative. This may indicate model misspecification. So JASP already points you in that direction, that a model with a negative error variance often is a misspecified model. And again, this can have to do with over parameterization. It could have to do with under parameterization, or it could be a sign that the model is wrong altogether. So for example, in this case, perhaps a linear growth curve model was specified and yet growth was not linear, and then that could result in a negative error variance, or the growth model altogether is not the right model. Perhaps this was a trait-like construct that was stable across time. There was no growth, and so then when we fit a slope factor in addition to an intercept factor, then perhaps this will result in a negative error variance because we're overfitting the data with a slope factor that is unnecessary. So this is another sign of misspecification. Whenever you find an improper solution, a negative error variance, or otherwise a parameter that is outside of the range of admissible values, this should make you think that your model may be globally misspecified. Fifth, abnormally large standard errors. So this is a tricky one because again, so this may be now a scenario where you have convergence, you have a good chi-square perhaps, you have decent fit statistics, you have parameter estimates that are all proper, nothing improper, and yet you have standard errors that are large. And this is harder to see because not everybody looks at standard errors very closely. Usually we look at the parameter estimates and then maybe at p-values or something like that, but oftentimes people ignore the standard error column and they don't really know how to interpret the standard errors. And there's not an absolute rule, so to say, for interpreting them or for finding out what might be an abnormally large standard error. But here you can see an example where we have a correlation estimate between a linear slope factor and a quadratic slope factor in a quadratic growth curve model. In this case, these are correlations because we have the standardized estimate here, as you can see from the first column where it says STD estimate. So these are correlations, and so you can see that the correlation between the linear slope and quadratic slope factor is estimated to be negative 0.618, which is a substantial negative correlation. And so this should be a significant correlation, right? If we have a correlation that is that strong in terms of its absolute value, then that should be significant. Yet when you look at the p-value, you find that the p-value is 0.223, non-significant at the 0.05 level, and that's surprising for a correlation that is negative 0.618. And so that has to do with a large standard error, which is estimated at 0.507 here, and that's an indication that the model may be misspecified, because if you get a correlation that is that strong and yet its standard error is so high that this correlation will not be significant at the 0.05 level or another level, then this is a sign oftentimes that you have model misspecification here, and that might have you rethink the model. So this could, for example, mean that the quadratic growth factor is not needed, or that this is not a quadratic growth, that growth process here in your data, maybe a different type of growth process would have to be specified. So again, this can be a sign of model misspecification, and it's more subtle because this is not something that you may readily see or that you may get a warning message about from your statistical software. So pay attention to your standard errors as well. And one good rule is that if you don't find significance for parameters that you would expect to find significance for. So let's say you have correlations that are hypothesized or path coefficients and they should be significant at the 0.05 level, for example, and then you find they're not significant. So this could be an indication that the standard errors are abnormally large. And then the last one is unexpected parameter estimates. So this could be, for example, that you have estimates that are of unexpected sign or magnitude. For example, finding a negative path coefficient instead of an expected positive path coefficient. This could be a sign of model misspecification, or it could be a sign of collinearity, a suppressor effect, as we find in regression models and path models sometimes. Now, this may not necessarily mean that the model is misspecified, but definitely pay attention to the signs of your coefficients and make sure that they are in the expected direction. Also, when you find a small coefficient instead of an expected large coefficient, this could also be a sign of model misspecification, or that something went wrong with the model. So pay careful attention to that as well. So those are the 6 critical signs of global model misspecification. Any single one may be a sign of misspecification. So even if the first 5 are looking good, if the 6th one doesn't, then you might still rethink your model. And also another tip is to, even if you don't find any of these problems in your analyses, to always assume that the model could still be incorrect. So even a well-fitting model with all proper parameter estimates, reasonable standard errors, reasonable parameter estimates may not be the correct model. There are alternative models that could fit the data equally well or even better, that may turn out to be, or one of which may turn out to be the true model. So therefore, always assume that your model could still be wrong. Keep in mind that we can only falsify models with tests of model fit. We can never verify a model. We can never prove that a model is correct. Also, we can never assume that the causal direction is correct necessarily. When you have a path model with directional arrows in your model where X causes Y, or that's your assumption, then this may not be the case. So even if your model fits and is all proper, the causal assumptions of your model may be incorrect unless you have an experimental design, you have a longitudinal design with random assignment to treatment groups where you have a very strong experimental design, very strong for looking into causality. Unless you have something like that, then the model may not prove or may not indicate the causal direction correctly. I hope you found this video useful to learn about critical signs of model misspecification in confirmatory factor analysis and structural equation modeling. My name is Christian Geiser, and I'll see you in the next video.